Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Adair Maynard. Adair is a second-year student in our full-time MBA class of 2025, and she and I recently connected to talk more about her background, her decision to pursue an MBA, what led her to Darden, how she's pursued her startup venture during her time here at Darden, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. As always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to Experience Darden so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. And now, without further ado, here is my conversation with Adair Maynard. Adair, welcome to the podcast.
Brett, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. How are things going?
Good. We just wrapped up Q2 for my second year, and definitely very different from Q2 last year as a first year. So a lot less core classes, mostly focused on passions and more papers rather than finals. So I've been pretty happy with the change.
Yeah. What classes did you take in Q2? Any you'd want to highlight here?
Yeah, I took a business ethics and literature class, which is taught by Jared Harris, which was fantastic. We just read a lot of novels as well as short stories that highlighted different concepts as a manager, what kind of ethics you need to consider when managing others and what kinds of life purposes others may have and how literature can almost showcase that. So it was a really insightful class. I was not used to being taught ethics in that kind of format where we looked through some longer works and also looked at a lot of symbolism throughout the works. So it was really, really fascinating. And the final for that was actually just writing a short story. So just submitted that recently, and we even on the last day of class read some of our short stories during the course. So enjoyed it thoroughly. The other one that's I'd love to highlight was Path to Power. It was taught by Peter Bellamy, and just an incredible class. I can't talk too much about it because you kind of just have to enroll and experience it, but some people say it's almost the opposite of leading organizations, which you take in your first year. So rather than being mission focused, it's how can you be more self-focused within a organization and carve out your own path to power. So really fascinating, just juxtaposition with the Darden curriculum and what's offered.
Wow. I will tell you, there's one class that comes up here with great frequency on the podcast. It's Paths to Power. That class is mentioned, I think, almost more than any other class.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I think it's very impactful for people because it's just very against the grain for, some of the aspirations for what you want to be as a leader, but things you need to know about the way the world works. The only snippet I can bring into that is that the world is not fair and just. We do as much as we can to be good people, but it's almost you've got to come to terms with the world just not being fair and just, and you won't always see karma and repercussions for people's poor actions. So really fascinating. And then I also took Venture Velocity over 2 terms with Jim Zaflati, which was great for developing my venture that I started in first year and have really nurtured over the course of the Darden curriculum. So that course could not recommend enough. It's really small. It's only 10 people versus a lot of other classes being taught with anywhere from 30 to 70 in your second year. So really a small group that focuses on how their startups can grow during their time at Darden through coursework. So not a lot of class time, but a lot of time where you're working on your venture outside of class.
Well, we'll come back to talk about your venture, but before we kind of get too into that, tell us a little bit more about you. Who are you and what's your background?
Sure. I mean, I could start like Elle Woods, and I'm not a Gemini vegetarian, but I'm an Aquarius, ENTJ that happened to find her way into Darden. So I started, I learned about Darden, just like the MBA programs available, pretty early in my career, but I grew up as a military brat. Both my parents, the military kind of brought them out of where they grew up. So my mom's from West Virginia, my dad's from Kentucky. And then growing up as a military brat, I moved 7 times before the age of 14. Really close with my family as a result, because we were kind of everywhere we'd go. I'd have friends in tow. My brother and sister are just a year and a half younger than me. And so I'd be kind of the gang leader among among us, always just trailblazing into new environments. And every 2 years, we kind of pack up and go to the next one. So Darden, welcoming me for 2 years seemed very natural as a result. I'm actually a Hokie undergrad, which surprises me sometimes that they let me in here. But I'm very happy to be here. I studied chemical engineering in school and then went to work in Richmond, just outside of Richmond, I should say, in the chemicals and plastics industry, which was super passionate about leading into my career and just wanted to learn more about how I could contribute to a space that is so complicated that a lot of people don't know about. But it always fascinated me. We lived in Texas when I was really young, and I remember driving and seeing all these chemical plants and being like, I wonder what goes on in there. And you don't really do a lot of school tours into chemical plants growing up. So it just always fascinated me and got to see and learned a lot. And yeah, it was a wonderful place to kind of learn operations as an engineer for 2 years. And then I moved into marketing. I basically helped to improve a product as an engineer enough that I could then market it to new customers. So they moved me into marketing to help with that and some analytics to learn about how we could better just grow our business as a whole. So I would say operations and marketing were kind of my first two interests within my career. And then I wondered, what are some other possibilities out there? I noticed a lot of people I was working with had MBAs, and they all said it was a transformational experience. So as I was in school, I still wasn't sure about what kind of, degrees I wanted to do in the future, but I had a great opportunity growing up as a military brat with Virginia funding, to join the Virginia Military Survivors Dependents Education Program, which helped me to pay for a master's in computer science at VCU. And then later now it's been helping me pay for Darden. So now I'm just working through my MBA. I'm just a lifelong learner and have been really happy with the time that I took a step away from my career to be here and start to just understand a bigger way in how the world works as an MBA student, because we have a good balance of qualitative courses and quantitative courses I ultimately see as developing me as a leader in the future. So it's been a wild journey, but to my core, I think I'm a lifelong learner who has just been enjoying the journey as we go.
I'm curious, how did you get interested in a master's in computer science?
It's a bit of a long story. The short version is the chemical I was working on in the chemical plant I was at went into the semiconductor industry. And what I learned is I didn't know a lot about computers in general, and I wanted to be able to better contribute as an engineer there. And I was thinking through just my toolkit of what skills I had and did a lot of research online on what would help me to basically almost be more competitive in the workplace while still delivering better to the role I was in. And it seems like either a master's in computer engineering or a master's in computer science would really help with that. I started it in, fall of 2020. So it also was very good timing to just have something to do during COVID when I had no FOMO around me, and worked on it for 2.5 years, ultimately graduating in December 2022, which happens to also be when ChatGPT basically dropped and became super popular. So it didn't seem like it would help with like a career pivot or anything like that. Not that that was really what I was trying to do with it, but it helped me to much better understand the supply chain I was working in when I was in the chemicals and plastics industry, and helped me to kind of get noticed within that organization. But it was a lot of hard work for the 2.5 years as I was working those full-time jobs, and then I moved into doing this part-time master's. I was probably working like 15 to 20 hours a week on top of my full-time job.
Yeah, that's sort of significant commitment. So you already had a master's in computer science. How did you decide an MBA was the right next step for you?
Personally, it started to make sense from a timing standpoint for multiple different things. The industry I was in is very cyclic. So we actually had a downturn in 2020 where I also had to reapply for my job. And that also helped to contribute to wanting to do a master's in computer science, something that would differentiate myself in the workplace. And then in 2023, we were starting a new downturn, and I was like, well, maybe I should look at what options I have. At that time, the job market was still fairly hot. It was really hot in 2022. And I looked at, maybe an MBA might be a good next step. And just with kind of the benefits I had through different Virginia programs, to help me potentially to pay for school. And then also just what I was seeing in my workplace, it made a lot of sense to start looking at other options. And I even had to, in my old job, work a strike back in, I think it was April 2023. So working that and then having to cover a lot of jobs as I started to see people kind of exit, it made a lot of sense for me to just start looking at other options of what was available, which led me to apply round 3 of Darden, actually, even though I'd had my application pretty much geared and ready. I think I started it in September 2022 while I was still in my master's in computer science. And then I wasn't sure I'd actually submit it because I was like, maybe I'm burned out from school. What I found is I started to really miss school after I had been done with it for a couple of months. So it just made a lot of sense at that point to, hey, see if they'd want to accept me. I thought I'd get rejected and I would get really great feedback. And then Darden offered me a spot and it was hard to say no. So I just said yes.
I love that story. Lots of twists and turns, lots of self-reflection in that too. What is it about Darden specifically that appealed to you?
For me, I really liked the case method that I would read about. I started kind of studying about Darden, I want to say maybe in 2021, started getting a lot of marketing from them and attending some of the different events, offered mostly virtual events given that it was COVID. And as I was learning about the case method, I started to see the value in just getting more reps of practice, talking in front of others and learning how almost a boardroom thinks. In my marketing role, I was facing a lot of CEO. I was facing like our CEO, our C-suite, sales leaders, the board to prepare documents for them to make high-level marketing decisions. So I was getting a little bit of practice at that, but I wanted a classroom where I could almost learn how to be better at that rather than, as you can imagine, I was pretty STEM-minded with the engineering degree and the computer science degree. So I found sometimes I could get so caught up in the details that some of the important takeaways were not always the best presented. So I thought Darden would help me to just better be able to communicate and better be able to listen. I think that's been one of the greatest takeaways from the program is learning that so many people have so much perspective to contribute in a classroom. And we traditionally always think of the teacher as being the main contributor, but it's been an amazing program to just hear many experiences from my fellow students that have really enriched the classroom experience.
It certainly resonates with conversations that we had here on the podcast. I think very few people prior to coming to Darden have experience with case method or the sort of Socratic learning environment. You might meet the occasional person, but more often than not, this is a big shift for people in terms of the educational experience here, how the classroom functions. For you, what was the biggest adjustment for you in being in an MBA program, getting used to life as a Darden student?
Wow. Thinking through that, I think probably the social experience of it. As you can imagine, as an engineer, I didn't have a lot of time to be social in undergrad. I tried to carve out as much time as I could, but just there was a huge slug of work that you constantly needed to do for working through problems, preparing for exams. And one thing I love about Darden is just the outside classroom experience is just as rich as the in-classroom experience. I never basically hurt for going to social things. I always have something on my calendar that I could potentially attend and just a lot of strong relationships with my fellow students. So it's been really rich, but I've also had to really practice as someone who's kind of between an extrovert and introvert, kind of turning on being an extrovert a little bit more. So it's been really good from that standpoint. But also I think I wasn't totally prepared coming in, especially post-COVID, to just be privy to all of these social events that were available. But it's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, sometimes we forget about what a big shift that was. I mean, you basically spent 2 years at home or with small groups of people, very small sort of bubbles, and doing so many things virtually. Then all of a sudden you're plunged back into, what it was like, pre-COVID, like just a lot of people around and doing social things again in large groups and large crowds. I think we kind of neglected like what a big shift that was for many people and sort of what people might need a little bit of time to adjust.
Oh, yeah. I definitely notice it for a lot of first years. Just you start in orientation week, and there's something I think you can do every single night. You have a different dinner to attend or a happy hour. And with that, a lot of people just, some like kind of step back during that first week as they're trying to recharge their energy, which I think is always important. But through the course of the program, you almost start to work that social muscle a lot more. And so by second year, a lot of people are attending numerous club events. They're attending pretty much every cold call. They're trying to make the most of their experience and just connecting with others in the program and connecting with the new cohort of students. So it's been really rich, really taking advantage of all of that in my second year. We just had Winter Ball, for example, which I attended. And then we also, just for my club, have had so many events over the course of this past semester, both quarters. And that's been really rewarding to see people getting plugged into the community that I'm building as Entrepreneurship Venture Capital Club president. So yeah, that's definitely been the largest adjustment, I think. And then I think everyone comes into an MBA with different opinions on how to treat it. Some people are like, okay, it's all about school and learning, which I think is good. But there are some people who I think in some ways are dedicated to that still because it's a very rigorous program, but think of it a bit more as a career break and a sabbatical, which when you come to Darden, it's amazing just how busy you are with this quote unquote career break and sabbatical, just with how much social time there is. But it's really rewarding.
So, Darren, I'm curious, and one of the things we talk with people about here on the podcast is are their career goals and how those evolve. Obviously, we have a question in the application that asks people, at this time, how are you thinking about your short-term and long-term career goals? How does an MBA fit into those plans? How have your career goals evolved or not evolved during your time here at Darden?
Oh, it's definitely evolved. My initial vision, you almost only see when you're working what's right in front of you. And so working in the chemicals and plastics industry, I said in my application, I wanted to be a CEO of a chemicals and plastics company. And that I knew I wanted to lead in some way and nurture those talents here at Darden. And then as I've been here, I've realized that may not be the right long-term industry for me. I still don't know, but I know I want to lead right now. Like it's more like 10 businesses in 10 years. I've seen so many alumni that have done really successful turnarounds on businesses or have pretty large portfolios of businesses that they own, and then they get the right management teams under them to lead it. And I think of it from the standpoint of I want to own a business or own businesses that help to house the dreams of others within it. So it's something where it's almost not as much self-focused of I want to be in this role, but I want to lead in such a way that others feel like their dreams are coming true, working within that organization, whatever their dreams may be. So it's been a great shift starting to focus more on those around me and how I can better serve those around me rather than just focus on a single role that I want to achieve.
How has your entrepreneurial venture fit into these career goals and how you're thinking about things?
Sure. So it actually started just as it felt like a call to action. So my venture is called Memorial Tribute Legacy, and it was inspired by my cousin, Sergeant Corey Maynard, who passed away in June 2023. He was a West Virginia state trooper, and I found out about his death the week I got into Darden. So it was a huge shock to me, and he was killed in the line of duty, which was very difficult for my family, and 37 when he passed away. And with that tragedy, what I started to notice was there's a lot that falls on families and individuals' shoulders when a loved one passes. So I was tasked in my family, since I'm pretty tech savvy, to start getting photos from family, friends, community, anyone who had photos of Corey to prepare for the funeral. And this wasn't the first time I had done this. Fortunately, my family has a lot of people that we love, but it can unfortunately create a lot of grief. I've been to about 10 funerals in the past 12 years or so. So I've had done this before, but this passing really hit me hard. Corey was like a brother to me. My family is extremely close, even with the extended family. So I would see him, sometimes at our family reunions, which we have annually in June, and I had not seen him for a while. So I started just really thinking about when was the last time I had seen him and ways in which I could better support those who had been around him, more recently than that. So with that, like my business right now, created a memorial page for Corey and then has QR code tag plaques that can be put on park benches, gravestones, anywhere that's a physical place that had someone's presence in it before. And you can scan and then submit photos and videos to the memorial page for him. And they get uploaded after there's a concierge service that makes sure whatever is getting uploaded is appropriate to be added. And then from there, it's just a physical space that is a little, in my opinion, better developed versus what's available on the market to remember someone's presence and compare that to what you maybe can find when you search them or you post them once on social media, and then kind of those photos can get lost further down your timeline. So it's been really rewarding kind of it started as grief for a lot of the beginning of my Darden program and started almost like teasing out the emotions and better understanding how can I make an impact with like this life experience, and how can my decision to come to Darden impact this business and just this idea that I want to serve others better and serve them during this time of grief that some people still deal with and try to accept, just very influential people in their lives that they're still maybe thinking about every day, but don't have spaces in which that are carved out for them to kind of honor those thoughts. So it's been really rewarding during my time here and trying to create this like nostalgic joy for people who have passed. And I think I'm definitely on the right track with doing it for Corey, and I'm starting to find other businesses to partner with to do it for others.
I'm curious, obviously you have this idea sport out of this tragedy, this grief you're experiencing. How has the idea changed? It sounds like you've been working on it for a while. Has it evolved over the course of the past year or so?
Absolutely. It started initially as just honestly grief, and I knew I wanted to do something in the memorial space to serve it. So, Corey passed in June, and then by the time August rolled around, I started going into orientation, and people at like maybe 2 weeks after I quit my job, I started, classes in the Darden curriculum. And then everyone was talking about recruitment this, recruitment that, and I still was thinking about Corey. And so I almost did like the minimum I needed to do on recruitment to get something where I'd feel comfortable with a summer experience. And then I joined KPI Club, which is a women's founders group. It's an informal club that I found out about through entrepreneurship and venture capital. And I started just going to this accountability club that's about creating businesses. And I said, I know I want something that serves like this, like sector and this problem of, creating spaces to better honor people after they've passed away, but I don't know what that looks like. And I initially was just kind of grief stricken and didn't know how to form it. And then over the course of just working with these women who were also building their startups, I found by December, I had built like my website, because they had really pushed me to kind of put something physical together. And initially I couldn't even make a memorial for Corey because I still didn't feel like I had processed enough. So I actually made my first memorial on the page for my parents' very alive cat, Rico. And so with that, I built out this page and just was like, this is what I'm trying to do. And then I started teasing out like products and services over the course of the next year. I set up the LLC, I set up the bank account, and I started talking to funeral homes, tombstone engravers, and and better developing, what's the product and service that goes with this, and telling the story of Corey and the impact he had, and then showing them like the memorial page once I built it a couple months later after, I wasn't showing my parents Cat Rico's page to anyone, but it definitely helped me to get past a barrier of just what needs to be on the site that helped to build it into the vision that I see. So I was really grateful for just the people who supported me in the community with bringing that vision to life. And it was really just, beginning of first year was crazy in a lot of ways, but building that out, I was really grateful that people could start to see my vision and push me in the appropriate ways to help me to kind of see what I could do with that emotion.
We talked a little bit about the classes that you took in quarter two. And obviously, you mentioned it's the second year. It's been this very full year, lots of social and extracurricular experiences. You mentioned that you're president of the Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital Club. Do you want to talk a little bit more about EVC and some of the things you've been up to this year?
Sure. I have absolutely loved leading a club this year. I started a bit apprehensive. I actually didn't even want to be a club president. My friend Leon Tong actually encouraged me to run. We were both first year liaisons for the Entrepreneurship Venture Capital Club last year, him, Daler Battle, and myself. And the leadership from last year essentially talked to us during a board meeting and said, hey, we all put you as first year liaisons because we expect you to run for leadership. How about you all think about which roles you'd want to run for? And Leon approached me and said, I think you should run for president. And I've talked to Daler and he agrees. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. I hadn't really thought of that as an option before. I've never officially led a team in any of my roles. I was always in technical roles as a market specialist or an engineer or a researcher, and never ran any of the clubs I was in undergrad. I always thought of myself as more of a influencing force in the room to help with leadership than actually running it. So I said, okay, I'll run. And if I get elected, I'm sure I'll figure it out, and got elected. And it's been a whirlwind since. Fortunately, I inherited great bones from Ellie Jameson, who has been on the podcast before, who is right now is leading Play Henry with her friend Grace. And it's just grown so much since they had it. So they started with two big events last year, which were a Cold Call Startup Fair in the fall, and then the UVA Venture Capital Conference in the spring. And I attended both last year and was just inspired to kind of see it further grow this year. And so we grew our membership for our club from 140 members to 260 members, mostly through lowering dues, as well as just communicating a lot of the opportunities and how all of EVC club opportunities are open not only to domestic students, but international students. And encourage people who come from all backgrounds of working at startups, having visions of what they want to do entrepreneurially one day, or having venture capital backgrounds or aspiring to be venture capitalists. So got a lot of engagement. And then we threw 72 events between Q1 and Q2 of this year, and had nearly like 2,000 participants, attendees, people going to these events. I know all these numbers because I did a little like 2024 Spotify Wrapped type of thing for my club, because we do debriefs with the Mayo Center, who helps to sponsor us, as well as the Batten Institute, who also sponsor us. So it's been really rewarding to see that also get reflected in a lot of the rankings for entrepreneurship at Darden, where we've been progressing pretty steadily and rapidly. And I've just been happy to have my team help to contribute. We've done a lot of great work over this past year. And now, instead of 3 liaisons for first year who, got pressured to be on the leadership board, we have 7 for this upcoming year. So should be a good feed in for just future success of the EVC club. And it's been a wild ride, but a great journey to be here, even though I didn't want it initially.
72 events over like the first 3 months of the school year?
Yeah, since starting in August. So August to, now in December. And a lot of those are just not just our events, but ones that we promote that are in the greater Charlottesville community, because it's such a rich ecosystem. There's so many entrepreneurs, so many venture capitalists, and we're only starting to scratch the surface of all of the, partnerships we could do. We also did quite a few collaborative events with other clubs. Like we did one that was with our media entertainment club, because we had a gaming VC speaker come in, and then we had a lot of just climate tech with partnering with the energy club Net Impact, and then having the sustainability conference with VC speaker come to that. And we also help with a lot of greater missions at kind of UVA. There's the Entrepreneurship Cup, and we actually had all-time high applicants from Darden and apply with their startup ideas. I think we had 28 applicants, and normally you have, I think the total number of finalists, I want to say it's around maybe 50 finalists or so. It may be more than that. And then we had, 25 winners. And out of Darden, we had 12 people get selected to be finalists, which is great. And then we had 9 winners from those 12. So just wonderful metrics. But I've been so happy that we've been able to get people in our community excited and wanting to contribute to, share their ideas and contribute to the entrepreneurship community here. So it's been really rewarding hearing the stories of people who have found a lot of impact that our club is having. So it's been really rewarding.
Yeah, super impressive. That's a lot in a relatively short period of time. Maybe a difficult question to answer, but you mentioned that Darden has been climbing these entrepreneurship related rankings. Why do you think Darden is a good place for a student that has a startup interest or an entrepreneurial inclination?
Sure. I think that first off, our Darden alumni give back to students like nobody else. I've had a alumni who's on the board of trustees who I told my idea to because he was visiting for a class, and then I had a dinner and he let me send materials over and was like, I will help you with your idea and giving you feedback and sitting down with you to see this through. And also just hyped up, I love this idea, you're doing great things. And so having someone who's runs a, successful business out of Darden that's worth multiple millions tell you that just has given me so much confidence to continue to build and scale it. And I don't know, I just know that it's felt very unique to the Darden community for me that there's so many people who are willing to just talk to me about it and pour in their support and energy into fueling that. And we just have a really great team from Mayo, Batten, and the faculty available that do the same as the Darden alumni. I'm really fortunate to work with pretty consistently 18 to 20 Darden staff and faculty members in this role that all have different perspectives to contribute, but just they pour themselves into the students that go here. And I think it's really, I did not have an appreciation for it before I took this role, but now I'm seeing just how thoughtful they are about planning the overall vision of entrepreneurship and venture capital with different initiatives during their time here. And they're really thoughtfully taking in student feedback and implementing it as fast as they possibly can. And one example that we had of that recently is we just opened up a short little iLab incubator application early just for a small group who had gone through a lot of the Entrepreneurship Cup process and were consistently meeting as founders groups. And we opened it up to kind of these smaller groups of people that were really, building their idea out a lot. And we got a lot of applications before those students had to go through recruitment so that they could see if they could get accepted into the summer incubator program, which is the iLab, before they start interviewing for consulting or banking or tech jobs in January. And that was just a feedback thing that we had given to the Darden staff pretty recently, and they executed on it as fast as they possibly could to try to give value to the current class of first years. So I was really proud. I've just been so proud and so happy with the people I'm working with. The people have been the biggest differentiator for me.
Well, Adair, what are you looking forward to in the months ahead?
One thing I'm definitely looking forward to, I think, training in a new board coming in. I know Ellie did a great job of helping me to get up to speed for training on this role. And I'm looking forward to doing the same for the incoming class and helping that succession. But I've been so excited during my time here to honestly explore like hobbies in my second year, start to find ways in which to recharge and take a step back that I wasn't the best at in my first year because I was also just decompressing from, the working life culture. So in my second year, I got a cat actually recently. So I've been spending a lot of my time at home, just spending time with him. And that's been really rewarding. I don't think I would have had the confidence to do that if I was still working, because now I have a lot of time to kind of raise him from being a little kitten. So it's been fun. And then I've been really excited about, I joined a Zoom cycle gym, which is just, I go every single morning as much as I possibly can. And that's been really fun for me. So looking forward to continuing to do that. And then within Darden, the classes still in second year are so rich. So we have a lot of venture capital electives coming up in the spring. So we have venture capital finance as well as venture capital leadership, which I'm really excited to attend and learn about. And yeah, it's just in second year, they say second year best year. And it's really been proving to be that way.
Well, maybe a difficult question to answer here, just given that you're still very much in the thick of things here. But do you have a favorite memory from Darden thus far? Something that stands out from your roughly year and a half as a Darden student?
Just so much. I think probably one was I was in Section C last year, and winning Darden Cup was really just something incredible for my section. And I had a ton of fun participating in the different events. I helped to lead the talent show last year, and that was a lot of fun. And even though I think we placed fourth in the event, so we didn't do great in that particular event. It was so much fun to just connect with my section mates further and deeper. And then another thing has been honestly showcasing my venture at the startup fair, the cold call startup fair that we had this fall, and starting to tell people about my idea in a bigger way was really rewarding for me because I think I kept it fairly quiet in my first year and still haven't done the most marketing for it, which I'm going to be spending a lot of December kind of working through some of those pieces. But I was just so encouraged having other students stop by my table and learn about what I was doing during this time. And that's been really rewarding, is getting to share a piece of my journey that a lot of people didn't know about last year.
Yeah, I guess there's a fair amount of vulnerability with sharing, I've been working on this thing. This is my startup idea with a group of people. I guess you're never quite sure how people might react to it.
Exactly. It's like you have a baby and you're so worried someone's going to call your baby ugly. That's really the closest thing I could possibly think of to it, but it's been rewarding with the encouragement, but also I've had a lot of people who've given me great feedback on parts of it to tweak. But my fellow Darden students and just those in the Darden community are so thoughtful about doing it in such a respectful way. And I think a lot of that is facilitated by just the camaraderie in the classroom setting and how we bring that outside and how we interact with one another.
Well, what has been the impact of the program for you? Obviously, still working through things. Got another semester to go before graduation. But when you think about who you were back in August of 2023 to where you are now, what's been the impact?
Oh, wow. The biggest impact, I think, has been confidence building and feeling almost like I'm better equipped to take over the world in some ways. I felt a little bit like that when I was working in my old industry, but I worked this past summer as well in mergers and acquisitions banking at Harris Williams in Richmond, which was an incredibly rich internship. I loved the people I worked with and still stay in contact with a lot of them over text. In fact, my analyst, he's running a marathon in dedication to his uncle who died of heart disease a couple of years ago. And I donated to his campaign for that, and he was like texting me like a thank you for that. So working with just amazing people and that experience has been great. And I think about, I didn't even have when I came in any clue of all of the options that were available with someone who has an MBA. And it's just been so eye-opening to see, oh, I don't need to just kind of rise through one organization for my whole career. There's so many possibilities and ways that you can pivot and turn through the course of your career. And Darden gave me a great toolkit to just be able to do that. So it's like my vision last year was I'll be a CEO of a chemicals company, in maybe 10, 15, 20 years. And oh my gosh, I'm so stricken with grief. I don't know, how I'm even going to make it through the next quarter. And I think about where I am today, and it's much more acceptance in the journey and having still daring to dream and be like, I hope that I own 10 businesses in 10 years and that I'm able to serve those in my businesses to dream big and to grow within that. And I'm starting with my business, Memorial Tribute Legacy, during my time here. So it's been transformational just experience and seeing the possibilities available for my career and my life.
One more question for you, Adair. So any advice for our prospective student listeners as they think about their own MBA journeys?
Submit the application would probably be one of my biggest pieces of advice. And I think probably the other piece of advice for just the MBA journey is don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I think a lot of people think that deciding to go down a path like this, in your application, you need to be this perfect resume person. And I found that a lot of what differentiates my peers here is they were vulnerable in their applications and the conversations they had and were very genuine in showing the different sides to them. And I know that being thoughtful about when I use that vulnerability has really served me in being a leader in my second year. It served me in just getting the experience to come to Darden in the first place. And it even served me in getting my internship where I thoughtfully talked about my family and why it made sense for me to return to Richmond and stay in Virginia. So be thoughtful and be vulnerable and submit the application.
Yeah, I love that advice. We try to give as much along those lines. We try to give that advice as well about just being yourself through the application process. When we talk with prospective students, it oftentimes feels like they have to make themselves into some quote unquote perfect MBA candidate, when in fact the real strength of people's applications comes in what makes them different than everybody else, and what makes them uniquely them. And I think it can sometimes get lost in all of this applying to business school, where people think, oh, I've got to be a very specific kind of person. The reality is you do not. There are so many different kinds of people, and that's really what makes this experience so rich for everyone, is having all that difference in the classroom and in a class, and giving people a chance to meet all of these people from all kinds of different backgrounds and walks of life and experiences and perspectives. So I love that advice, Adair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brett. It's been a fantastic experience. And I hope everyone who applies and continues to come in just get so much richness from the experience. I know I have, and wish the best for all of them.
And that was my conversation with Adair Maynard, a second-year student in our full-time MBA class of 2025. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.